Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about a topic that I am really looking forward to getting into. I'm coming on today to talk about Jupiter in Aries transiting and the effects that this transit will be having on us. I will be making two parts to this video as we have Jupiter moving into Aries now and it will retrograde back into Pisces. So we will be having a very distinct first part energy and then a second part energy. So Jupiter moves into Aries on May 10th, 2022. It retrogrades at the end of July before exiting Aries on October 28th, 2022 and moving back into Pisces. And then it will be back in Aries around December 20th of 2022. So yes, we have all of the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere with Jupiter in Aries. And then by the fall season, we will have Jupiter in Pisces again, and we'll go through the entire fall with Jupiter in Pisces, and then we will enter winter on a Jupiter in Aries yet again. So yes, I'm excited for it to finally get into Aries. This is such a positive, optimistic, uplifting transit amidst many harsh and difficult and hard to interpret transits. This one's a little more straightforward and a little bit more light and easy to work with. So basically the journey starts now, okay? And then we're gonna be feeling this way again probably by the calendar new year of 2023. I've previewed for you a bit about the January 2023 time period and the new beginning that really is demanding, though we're going to have a little taste of that right here as well in May, June, and July of 2022. It's going to be so great to kind of just be sitting with the energy and understanding what journey do I want to start? Where do I want life to take me? How do I want to expand? And what new adventures are waiting for me? That's a lot of the energy of Jupiter in Aries. So yeah, the journey starts now, part one. Okay, intuitive messages of Jupiter in Aries. First of all, we have a Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius and also traditionally the ruler of Pisces, that has a rulership over expansive concepts. It rules over optimism. It rules over any type of strategy, law, academics, adventure, also travel and higher learning. And it's in the sign of Aries, which is the Mars-ruled sign, the very first sign of the zodiac, which represents new beginnings, high levels of energy, humor, laughter, enjoyment of challenges, competitiveness, physical experiences as compared to emotional or mental experiences, and also being out of your comfort zone or having to start over or gain a new type of muscle memory, gain a new type of experience that you've never had. So combining those two energies together, what I feel mostly about this Jupiter in Aries is that there's going to be a new kind of culture around the idea of getting out of your comfort zone, around the idea of being in new territory, and around the idea of having perhaps a little bit of an unconventional or kind of reliable way forward. So we're coming from a paradigm with the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn that we had that really wanted us to develop a more conventional, more foundational, more tried and true path. And it wasn't totally pure because we also have Uranus in Taurus, which is really shaking up themes of convention. And we have the North Node in Taurus right now as well, as Jupiter is going into Aries the first time. So it's really, again, augmenting this feeling of being kind of in a battle between the old world, new world, between the conventional and the unconventional. And this Jupiter in Aries is going to really push the weight into the unconventional. So, or even if it's not totally unconventional, what's unconventional to you? So what maybe is not the most familiar territory for you might be entering your experience. So I want to brace you all. The first major intuitive message that I get for this transit of Jupiter in Aries is needing to be prepared for an unfamiliar experience or needing to be prepared to enjoy a little bit of difference, okay, or a little bit of contrast. So if you've been holed up and kind of in your own inner sanctum for a long time, living a very like a indoor experience, this Jupiter in Aries will definitely signal more of an extroverted or more of a travel-oriented global energy for you. And if you're rarely someone who's been really, extroverted, have been traveling or have been like out a lot, you might have to go in more. You might have to change that. So right here in May of 2022, when I'm filming this, it's going to really put a compass in your hands, I think, and ask you to just go there, or get out of the house, or get out of the really mundane experience, and to just try it out. Okay. A major lesson that's coming through with this particular Jupiter, as it's always, whenever you have Jupiter move into Aries, it's a very significant place for any planet to be. Pisces or Aries, regardless of the planet, means that there's an astrological cycle starting over, because it's the last and first sign of the zodiac. So Jupiter has finished a cycle and it's starting over. And that means that as it's in Aries, okay, it wants us to kind of be doing that as well. It wants us to be starting a new cycle. It wants us to be enjoying the idea of a new landscape, or some type of new environment, some type of new location, some type of new status experience as well. And what is kind of tender about this year's astrology, this movement of Jupiter, is the fact that it will retrograde back into Pisces. And I'll update you guys more on this once we actually get to that point, because that's still quite a ways off. But it's good to just go ahead and intuitively talk about right now the fact that it's going to kind of get into this first sign and going to kind of feel like it's starting over. And Jupiter is particularly pronounced when it's in a sign that it likes or in a sign that it doesn't like. So, for example, Jupiter in Sagittarius is, when it transits, it's bringing about like huge economic stimulation. It's bringing about like a lot of good luck and lottery energy. And then once Jupiter hits Capricorn, we really know it. I mean, we saw that in 2020, right? Jupiter was in Sag in 2019, and then it was in Capricorn in 2020. Jupiter was in Sag in 2007, and then it was in Capricorn in 2008. The most pronounced planet when it comes to just pure, raw, forceful energy demonstrating positive or negative outcomes based on location, proximity, or sign placement. Jupiter loves Aries, and it loves Pisces. So this is really nothing but good, but it is stressful, I think, to the psyche to have Jupiter retrogrades from Aries to Pisces, because it's such opposite energy. It's not a bad place for Jupiter. It likes both of those signs. It does well in both of them. But it's almost like major decision territory for the collective, because Jupiter in Pisces, as we've been having this for, all of 2022, and we had it off and on in 2021, Jupiter in Pisces is like dogma. It's like major, deep, ancient significance within your path. There's a religious kind of energy about it. There's a political energy about it. There's a feeling of being dialed in or tapped into something much greater than one realizes. And then when Jupiter in Aries comes in, it's like the inverse. It's like almost pulling out or withdrawing and staking a new path, or staking a brand new way forward, or a very different, more innovative, less ancient type of energy. And this is going to be in a tug of war still, because we still, for many, many years are going to be having that ancient energy of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn that we had in 2020. And that's not going to disappear, okay? I mean, that's going to really echo out for a long time. So it is meaning that basically you can't really prescribe a uniform way to channel this energy. Some people need to continue on their more ancient, more traditional, more legacy-oriented path building, and then some people really need a total wash out, because Jupiter and Pisces can do that too, can wash everything away so that you have a clear space to work with. So a good way to gauge that, like where you're standing on that, might just be like, have things been washed away in my life in 2022? Okay, and then even like the latter half of 2021, what was washed away? What was too challenging? What was Tower like an energy, or Ten of Wands like an energy even if it didn't get washed away. We can see with Jupiter and Aries a simplification of heaviness, or just a lightening, right? Like it's easier to lose excess weight with Jupiter and Aries. It's easier to trim down your expenses, to live much more sustainably. Okay, and sustainability is the name of the game in the overall astrological makeup right now. But I basically feel that this very first window that we have in Jupiter and Aries, for a lot of people, the best thing I can recommend for most people, like if you have the means, if you can do it, like get out of your comfort zone, like go on a vacation, go somewhere you've never been before. And there are ways that you can do that without breaking the bank, even if you don't feel like you can afford like to go to Hawaii or something for 6 months and figure your life out. I mean, do that if you can, but just going one town over for the day, getting on the bus and going to a different, part of the region that's like close by, and walking through and going through those spaces, literally even going to like an Airbnb for like 1 or 2 days, or even little things like that can be life-changing with Jupiter and Aries, and seeing how the universe works with you, or how it moves with you, because that's going to also help to develop your third eye and crown chakras more, which are very heavy coming out of Jupiter and Pisces. So we need well-developed third eye and crown chakra energy to work well with Jupiter and Aries, because it does ask us to enter new territories, and it asks us also, and this is another hard part of the transit, or it can be hard for a lot of people in this current climate, is like being faced with multiple paths forward, or a multitude of different locations, like 6 different career potentials, 6 different universities, 6 different industries to be in, and having contacts in all of them, or having open doors in all of them. Which do you choose? Okay. Jupiter and Aries often puts us in a place like that, especially when you have this place where it's like going to retrograde back into Pisces, because Pisces really expands and it really opens our connecting points up to many different places. So then the Jupiter and Aries comes in for us to make that decision. And that's why I've been telling you guys about July 2022, and then January 2023. Both points of like a new Jupiter and Aries energy coming right after Jupiter and Pisces as 2 really streamlined decision points. I talked about this in the new nodal paradigm video, which I will link below and in the top right hand corner of this video, so you can get more information on those decision points and those timelines in that video. But yeah, I hope that this is starting to really make more sense to you all, where it's like, okay, my luck, my higher calling, my deeper purpose, things connected to Jupiter and Pluto to an extent, those things are getting a brand new type of investment, or a brand new type of windfall or support with Jupiter and Aries. What would I do in that type of situation? I've been talking on Patreon and some of my different videos about like people who get obsessed with wanting to, make money, or people who get obsessed with wanting a certain like comfort level, and how that detracts from like their actual purpose, and how a lot of people are like, okay, once I have this amount of money, or once I have this amount of security, then I can do the big thing, or then I have the autonomy to like step into purpose. But then a lot of people don't even know what it would be, like they connect to security, or they try to develop security without understanding what their next step would be. And that's why you sometimes see people never getting out of that loop, or never really feeling secure enough to level up or evolve to a different type of energy output. It's really wonderful to use the remaining 2022 and like the Jupiter retrogrades as it moves back into Pisces. Like later this fall, we're going to have this beautiful, beautiful like second chance to figure stuff out, or second opportunity as it moves back into Pisces to like re-expand our connecting points, re-expand our new paths, and then like do it again. So like this is really beautiful, you guys, to see that we have like 2 different chances. I mean, you can do it like right now if you want with Jupiter and Aries. And then there's going to be another chance again at the calendar new year to forge a new path, or to really lighten your load, or to really refine, calibrate, and sharpen your edge, or your purpose, your cause, your calling. The entire makeup of the astrology right now is so concentrated on the development of independent calling or the development of independent purpose, aside from the needs of others, yet connecting to them at the same time. So for those of you who are trying to connect to a larger like entrepreneurial or organizational cause, this is a very wonderful time for actually setting some stuff into motion and actually starting to get on the ground. So that's one of the things I've written down. And I've talked a little bit about this on Patreon as well. It's like getting your feet on the ground instead of, being like locked up in the house. Like try to get out, try to do things in person, try to talk to people, try to get feedback from consumers or producers or vendors or whatever, and try to understand what their needs are. Or if it's like more personal and more micro, say you want to like heal family wounds or you want to get closure on a difficult event of the past, there's going to be a time for that with this, for those of you who need that. And try to like get on the ground with it. So what do I mean by that? I mean like try to pull out of the super high-brained, complex decision making and just like ground out your thoughts and let yourself know a more human way forward to create that closure or to receive that healing, as compared to spending a lot of time like journaling or writing things down, like making the perfect formula. Okay, so this is interesting. I've already been seeing this too. Like for those of you who are super, logical and super organized, you might already be seeing that you're having a hard time with your planner, or you're having a hard time with your resolution crafting, or you're seeing a lot of just random output that doesn't make much sense with how you're planning things on paper. That's because Jupiter in Aries wants us to improvise, okay? Jupiter in Aries wants us to just get on the ground, just do it, just let come what may type of vibe, live and let live type vibe. This is a much more, this is an interesting download. We're moving into shorter segments, okay? So whereas we might have needed like multiple minutes or hours to figure things out in our mind or to go through certain moments or day experiences, now that's shortening down and we only need a few seconds. Okay, we make a decision quickly. Okay, we don't need to ruminate and deliberate and sit in that deliberative phase. Now we can just choose. Okay, again, this is why we need to develop that healthy third eye, that healthy crown chakra, so that we have that ability to just choose. For those of you who've learned languages before, I am one of those people. I had an incredible language teacher once, foreign language teacher, who told me an incredible little secret that the faster you speak the foreign language, the more understandable it will be. Okay? So if you really try to read out the foreign language slowly, and you try your best to pronounce every single word, there's a space for that, and that might have been where we were at energetically over the last 2 years, like really needing to sound out every syllable, really needing to slowly move through the sentence. But you'd be surprised to know that if you just moved really quickly through it, your brain would naturally parse the syllables together in the way that the language does more, because it usually, linguistically, language flows syllable to syllable in a way that is most natural for the mouth to do. So the quicker you read it, the more likelihood you have of sounding fluent, or the more likelihood you have of correctly pronouncing things. So this is kind of the way, or the part of the brain, or the part of the neurological expression that the current astrology is building, is a more quickly read and therefore more correct sounding verbiage, creative process, blueprinting, planning out. We don't need to do that so much. You want to get a certain level of competence, right? If you're learning a language, what a great time to learn a language with Jupiter in Aries. If you've been wanting to learn a foreign language, incredible time. But yes, you want to get to a certain level of competence and really sound stuff out. But at a certain point, you need to see a transition from like that slow moving kind of like hyper processing way of learning to a more fast moving, more like adept way of moving. And that's what I feel is holistic energetically right now, and it's good to apply. So let's apply that to a few other areas of life. So procrastination is the enemy of everything with Jupiter and Aries. We have to really overcome procrastination. And I think that it's through not overthinking things. I think that it's through understanding the greater significance of our current path and what we're working towards. And I think that it's also through knowing that there is something purposeful outlining our current choices. Those should all be really good tools to use against procrastination. But then we just need to do things quickly, okay, to some extent. Like, don't rush. I'm not telling you to rush, although it is a kind of a rushing energy, actually, Jupiter and Aries. There is kind of a need to just get out of bed and do it, to just like get the exercises done, to just get your previous tasks done, like to not put things off at all. Because really, like, the meaty, wonderful aspects of this transit are seen when we have free time, okay? And then we step into a new adventure with that free time, or we step into an adventure with that excess, with that surplus, okay? So I've been preparing you guys for a while, like building up surplus, getting 10 of Wands out of the story so that you have more freedom and more movement to just adventure, love life, and step into like the things that have meaning for you. We are on a quest for meaning with the Jupiter retrograding back and forth between Aries and Pisces, like, and how we rely on other people for meaning, and then how we pioneer that ourselves. Like, that's what it's about right now. It's beautiful, it's incredible, and we need to really immediately sink our claws out of anything that we've identified as addictive, too expensive, shady, giving or producing some type of toxic response in our life that we have to like process over and over again. Like, for example, people in your life, like, you just can't tell whether they like or dislike you. You just can't tell whether they're a ethical or unethical actor in your life. You just can't tell if they're if they're directing their meanness or directing their dissatisfaction at you or another person because of like ambiguity or something, or because of toxic ambiguity is going to be a big problem during these next few years. So we just have to literally turn away from it, okay, and don't feed it anything. So this is definitely a time to rethink what you're demanding from life. And when I say demand, I'm speaking economically. So supporting something you don't believe in, purchasing things that you don't like, fast food, single-use plastic. Okay, so creating a demand for that, and then, business or companies starting to think that people need more of it and start producing more of it, and it just expands these kind of negative or toxic connecting points. And that can be happening economically, that can be happening relationship-wise, and across the board. So, I think that we do need to also give ourselves lenience. So it's not about getting like dogmatic and crazy about these economic factors or about any type of spiritual thought towards certain sustainable or unsustainable practices. That's more of a Jupiter and Pisces thing. But with Jupiter and Aries, it's almost like the significance of your own path, or the significance of your own deliberate push forward into certain uncharted territories will just seriously like take you out of anything toxic or dangerous. Okay, it's kind of like, I don't know, God or the universe protects the adventurer type of thing. And I don't want to stoke some of you up who have a certain, my Sagittarius out there, my, Aries people out there. While you are blessed and protected right now, okay, beautifully, remember to wear your parachute when you go skydiving. It doesn't mean you can't wear the parachute when you go skydiving. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, like, I do feel that you need some type of adventure, or you need some type of exhilarating or thrilling or fun entry point, fun mechanism to be taking place in your life. It's kind of an interesting time for roller coasters, and I think that a lot of people will be manifesting emotional roller coasters, or manifesting volatile energy lines if they don't just like go to a theme park, or if they don't just participate in like the stock market, or participate in something that's really volatile to begin with. Jupiter in Aries kind of wants to learn through volatility. So if any of you can identify volatility in your day-to-day where you don't want it to be, so for example, with like substances, with relationships, with even like risky business or anything like that. If you're seeing volatility where it doesn't need to be, this is like probably the important negative aspect to talk on, like right before this transit even kicks off. So unnecessary volatility or misplaced volatility. Try to just find new ways that you can channel volatility. I don't know, like some type of gaming or some type of more safe volatility, roller coasters, theme parks, even just like hiking or traveling or something. So if you're feeling volatility, like especially if you're like in your house and you're like seeing like volatility in the house, you're like clumsy, you're breaking stuff, you're angry, in that type of space, in a more intimate space, you're not channeling enough energy, and it's time to understand new ways to channel energy. So the main thing, and one of the main gifts that Jupiter in Aries brings, is a new ways to channel energy that are more physical and more human. Okay. So especially for my fire signs out there, I want to really alert you all, because y'all are naturally super energetic, and to a degree the air signs as well. My fire air people, you probably need something new in your life, some type of new way to channel energy. So it'll be a wonderful time to cultivate a new hobby or to cultivate a better, more appropriate energy channeler. And 2021 would really be a good example of like how well you were channeling energy. Like, were you too mentally focused or too much in the mind or too much in the body? Either way, and it's really good to rethink that now. Or again, by January 2023, to understand a better balance of mind-body focus. And then for like my water and earth signs, it's more about just letting the world introduce something new into your life, or letting the world kind of steer you or show you an easier new energy line. So what do I mean by that? It's like, okay, as a water or earth sign, I'm feeling confused about how to move forward. What's out my window? What is the universe showing me? What is the synchronicity there? And how can I augment or expand this reality to be something more healing and more giving and reception oriented in a new way? So water and earth signs to me feel pretty like burned out isn't the right word. It's more like stripped of energy, or like they've had to try too hard at something. So now it's going to be more about inventing or generating more receptive opportunities for yourself, where you don't have to like really overgive, because, a lot of the water signs are like really, especially water signs, but earth signs as well. A lot of the feminine signs are just really like overactivated and have had to like give too much. So we're needing to see a little bit of a better opportunity for reception there. What else do I have written down here? I do have anchors up written as a key word. So like we've been so anchored, we've been so tied to certain places, and I do feel like we have to pull the anchor up and maybe sail to other places now. Adventure, commitment issues, being nomadic or on the move is likely with Jupiter in Aries. It's less of a homebody transit. It's not so much about being in one place only. Okay, so it's good to be somewhat nomadic or to be somewhat mobile during this time. There's a likelihood of traveling for work as well with Jupiter in Aries. There's a likelihood of your career having you in like different countries or different areas, different geographies, which should be very healing for a lot of you. We need good endurance, okay? Because Jupiter in Aries could be too much of a sprinter, too much of a quick like burst of energy. And if we can stretch that out and pace that, we can get the best result. Also, it's likely for there to be more of a soldier-like mentality, because Aries is the sign of the soldier. It's the sign of war. It's ruled by Mars. And Jupiter is the planet of like mentalities and concepts and cultures. So it's like a soldier culture, or like some type of more, fight battle oriented culture. So people really identifying with their personal battles, people really identifying with how life has been difficult and using that as more of a justification for their greater causes. So that's really the main beautiful point of Jupiter in Aries, is seeing a lot of people transcend certain areas that they didn't need to be, because they realize the beauty or the justification that some of their previous experiences provide them. And they really step onto that energy line and let that sort of be wings for them. Also, let's see, present oriented. Okay. Future tripping, past tripping is very detrimental during this transit, because the only way that you can even access Jupiter and Aries energy is by being present in the present moment, dealing with the current landscapes. It's very experiential. Okay, so you'll get new experiences with Jupiter and Aries. You'll do things you've never done before. You'll experience a side of life you've never experienced, and a type of person perhaps you've never experienced. So for new relationships, it's very possible to be in a relationship with someone that you've never known, or like meeting a brand new person, or just being with a type of person who is unknown to you. So like a personality type you've never dated, or a class that you've never dated, or something like that. So it wants also more accessibility to wanted things. Okay, that was let me reframe that a little bit. So Jupiter and Aries wants us to pursue our wants. Okay. Needs are vital, of course, but this is a very want-oriented transit. It's like, I want to be there, I go there. I want to get into that industry, I'm on the ground networking with those people. I want, caffeine, I'm at Starbucks, like, so here we kind of see the problematic side of the transit is it's very beholden to impulse, but it needs to be. So it's really on us to decide how we channel those impulses and what impulses we are beholden to, because it can be like an addictive energy, or it can be problematic for impulses that are not wholesome. So we want to try to, with the Saturn and Aquarius energy, which is really beautiful to have at the same time, to pour that impulsive energy into a place where we actually need impulse in our life. So the impulse to exercise, the impulse to fulfill an obligation, the impulse to step into purpose, stuff like that should certainly be followed, because it's not totally inconsequential. Okay, impulses can be strictly punished, I think, with Jupiter and Aries because of the soldier culture. Again, if you think of like the military, or if you think of those types of organizations, it can be very harsh on any type of like out of line expression, any type of kind of like also arrogant, or depending on where you're at in the hierarchy. Again, so it's a very hierarchical energy. Certain people in higher hierarchy can get away with the arrogance, but then also sometimes not, like it just really depends. But I will say there is also a very strict energy with any type of misplaced impulse, sometimes with Jupiter and Aries. So we have to really be masterful over our own actions and our own expressions, okay, with this transit, because it wants to have fun. It wants that, sort of soldier-like, excitement and perseverance to greater goals that sometimes merge with impulse in a positive way. But also it can very quickly just reject or push out, or, bestow consequences, or employ some type of penalty upon those who don't have very much self-control too. It just very, very much depends. But there's also going to be very arrogant people who just kind of like exist, or even gain hierarchy based on their arrogance with Jupiter and Aries too. That can be sometimes a narcissistic placement in a birth chart, because it's placing Jupiter, which is the most expansive, most, focused, fiery energy. When I say focused, I mean like through expansion, it multiplies and, can't be unseen or can't be not noticed, into the first house, which is the identity, the self, the very, direct and conscious view of the self. So it's very much like a self-oriented culture, or it's also a not self-obsessive, not so much self-obsessive, but like self-excited or self-expansive energy, which can be channeled in super positive ways, but can also get to be very grueling or tiresome for other people. So we want to really keep an eye on how we're giving back, and then also how we're like focusing on other people in our lives. It's a very healthy time to build up other people as well and to help other people on their journeys. Okay, because I think everybody is having a sense of like the journey starting now, or a sense of like what's next for me. Don't we see how personal it is? How much of a first person experience it is, like Jupiter in the first house energy. With that, there's a very powerful opportunity for like business or entrepreneurship around like self-development or any type of like products that help people to like think about themselves more, or focus on themselves more. That would be a very good industry to be in right now, because so many people will just be like thinking about, okay, what's next for me? How do I move forward? How do I ascend? So for any of you business people out there, that's a great little nugget of information about what might be successful over this next year and a half. Also, something I want to say about with Jupiter and Aries, this is just kind of a random download that I got, but it also denotes a need to better care for things, or a need to better take care of what you have ownership over. It denotes like taking better care of your body. It denotes if you have like expensive things, or if you have, I don't know, if you have like a car, if you have like a house, if you have collectible items or anything like that, like really caring for those things, really upkeeping those things, really managing those things. Again, that is part of a soldier culture, right? Like the soldier takes care of their uniform, takes care of their sword, takes care of their things very well. And there's a whole culture around like upkeeping the uniform, upkeeping the everything that's on the soldier, as well as the health of the soldier, as well as the way that the soldier has posture within the uniform and stuff like that. All of that stuff that's sort of like military culture is also going to be around. So for example, if you're like walking around in wrinkly clothing, people could be very judgmental during Jupiter and Aries, almost as if you were like in a barracks, like walking around with with a uniform that's not taken care of. I mean, it could actually result in like consequences or penalties, or somebody might not hire you just because of like not having wrinkle-free clothing. But they would never say it either, because that would be quite taboo for someone to say that in the civilian world. But yeah, and you can really get ahead just by really taking care of yourself, really putting your best face forward, really keeping up your grooming, keeping up your clothing well, and taking care of things that are valuable that you display. So like your car, whatever you're wearing. It's not just about going out and buying luxury goods, or about like buying clothing that is like, going to give a good impression no matter what. Because it's not about that. It's about the way that you demonstrate it. It doesn't matter how expensive the clothing is that you're wearing with this energy. And this can apply symbolically in multiple ways. It has nothing to do with the expense of the clothing. It has to do with how it fits and how the quality of the texture is, in conjunction to the message you're displaying about how you upkeep things, or how you manage things, or how much time or energy you put into holding or caring for your laundry or anything in your life. So for example, a car that's not washed could cause a penalty in your life. Also, misprepared tax returns, or anything that has an aspect of like needing management, upkeep, work, any type of bureaucratization of individual lives is important right now. Okay. So it's good to hire a cleaning service. Yes, it's good. I mean, or like impose a stricter regime for yourself if you do it yourself. Really whatever it takes to amp up the detail orientation. Okay. And also making sure that you maintain a formality with pretty much everybody. So like formal headers, formal hellos and goodbyes, dear so-and-so, sincerely so-and-so, stuff like that could really help people with Jupiter and Aries. It's very much a kind of chivalrous type of energy, knightly, chivalrous, warrior-like. And yes, certainly watching any type of documentaries about these types of things might also be helpful. And on the negative side, there's like also culture of like, what's it called? Like, what is that called? Like hazing in universities. I'm not sure if that applies in this case, but there can be like weird kind of hidden subcultures that can get pretty gross, especially if you're someone who like presents as unkempt or doesn't have like really the right type of favor to feel like protected by others. So like you want to really display a chivalrous and capable and well-maintained posture during this time, because a lot of Jupiter in Aries is like posturing. A lot of it is like displaying a certain capability, and that will really save you a lot. But if you can also like develop your body more, like your core and pretty much all parts of your body need to be developed further. So gaining muscle, gaining ground in a healthy way. Okay, so it can go overboard with Jupiter in Aries. You can definitely see overtraining. You can see burnouts. You can see addictions to that type of thing as well, because we're on the Libra Aries axis, right, which deals with a balancing and how much to participate or not in something. So that might all need reworked during Jupiter and Aries, and a lot of that might actually come in 2023, like a complete reworking of like work hours, a complete reworking of, you know, philosophy, because again, Jupiter is the planet of philosophy, about how much one has to work, or about also like how much one has to like work out or employ any type of energy spending. So changes coming there, but also greater healing or philosophy or luck in getting to a better rhythm in business, in learning, in any type of productivity. It's going to be a beautiful transit. It's going to be full of new stories. It's going to be full of humor. It's going to be a very nice experience of us having a fire Jupiter for the first time since 2019. Okay, we've only had you know, earth, air, and water Jupiters ever since we had that difficult time period, and Jupiter loves the fire element, so it's really going to be a nicer time for a lot of people, especially people with fire and air in their charts. It's going to be a nice kind of camaraderie building, friendship building, and even healthy competition building time. And I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this YouTube channel for further updates about this and other transits. And if you guys would like to come check out my Patreon page, I do weekly bonus forecasts over there, and it helps to keep this channel functioning and independent. So thank you so much for those of you who support on Patreon. You literally make this possible. Thank you so much. And check the description box below for other relevant videos and links. So thank you guys so much. And yes, prepare, because the journey starts now. Have a great transit. Bye.